Hey guys, it's Kat, and I'm here today to watch a couple of videos that have come into my feed that I thought were interesting. And as per usual, I am going to be working on some artwork. I'm working on the same exact art piece that I was working on previously, a fairy design for my store. And I'm very excited to announce that by the time you guys see this video, I will have officially released my merchandise in my store. There are a lot of really cool, fun things that I'm proud of in that store, and this is only the first round of things that I'm releasing. But if you go to my website and you see the store, you will see that there are actually quite a few things. I try to put something there for everyone, and if you guys have seen designs that you like that you may want to see on other types of products, please let me know. I love the app that I've been using, Fourth Wall. It's been a really great website for me. So if you guys want to see certain things, please let me know. All right, so this is a video I saw in my feed about transgender dating and the true nature of men. I have some thoughts about this, so I thought we would watch it and I would give you guys my reaction.
I'm in like a little bit of a Rambolina kind of mood, so we're gonna Rambolina right now. Now, what got me in this Rambolina mood was that yesterday I went on a date with this guy, and we were talking about like our expectations of the future. Does he want children? Do I want children? Yada, yada, yada. And it kind of led me down this like spiral rabbit hole of all the times that I've encountered men that, let's say they wanted to be with me more than sexually, more than just a night out of or a fun night, right, whatever, but they didn't want to commit because out of their mouths, I could not bear children. And it got me thinking and wondering how many women out there are with men who can't stand them, don't like women, other than for sexual pleasure, would prefer their homeboys, and are misogynistic, disrespectful, hateful, but are only with them to, I don't know, progress their offspring. It's crazy to me. And then it again led me down to this like further rabbit hole of like a lot of men see women as only as sexual pleasure and baby incubators. And anyone who cannot, what is it, bear life, is like automatically outruled. Whether you are disabled, a disabled woman, a trans woman, a woman who has problems with her cervix, can't have children, can't bear children. And I'm like, damn, that is so disgusting. I was even talking to my housemate about this today. I was like, it's so disgusting. And I've had literal men tell me, like, I would love to be with a trans woman. Not necessarily me. It doesn't have to be me. It's not a big fucking deal. But they say to me, I would love to be with a trans woman. I would love to be with you, but you can't give me children. You cannot. And I'm like, that's all you see women, trans or not trans, as baby makers. It was crazy. It was crazy to me. And it's like, there's way more important things in the world than like bearing children. Look at our economy. Look at the fucking state of the world. Look at the amount of poverty, amount of like racism, amount of struggling, suffering, war. People are like not doing great. And all you can think about is your offspring. All you can think about is your offspring. You're not even like the king of fucking nowhere. Babe, you're not even the king of nowhere. You're just a fucking loser. And all you can think about is your offspring. Gagatondra. Gagatondra. But yeah, when I was like thinking about this, I was like, sometimes I get really upset at myself. I'm like, oh, I can't bear children, so that's why I'm unwanted. Like, you know, you get in your head and you're like, this is all I'm ever seen as. But then I'm like, why would I want to be seen as just a baby maker? Ew. Ew. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm like making sense with my Rambolina, or whatever, but I don't know. I think I'm onto something.
There's this whole new like wave of men that are expressing attraction to me, and I have so many conversations with men who want to get me pregnant. Like, I'm not exaggerating. And it's such a weird thing to me because it'll be conversations with men I've never fucking met before. And they'll just be cornering me in a club talking about wanting to put babies in me. I think this is a conversation that a lot of transgender women have to have with themselves. And it's one that's really hard because, as I've talked about many times, contrary to popular belief, and maybe I can only really speak for myself, most of the men who have expressed interest in me as a transgender woman have been men who identify as straight. And with that, obviously, comes the fact that many of those men have a traditional vision of what kind of relationship they want to have. And for most of the men in America, that this vision of their relationship includes children. And trans women can't give men children, at least not yet, right? There are a lot of people who will be interested in being with trans women, but only sexually because of procreation. Now, here's what I'll say. I had a guy once tell me this. This was a guy who I was supposed to go on a date with when I was living in Orange County. No, this is when I was living in Valencia. And he stood me up on this date, and it was a big thing, and he told me that, like, the reason he did it was because he's a family-oriented guy, and, like, he really wants to be able to have kids one day. Now, I follow this guy still. He does not have kids, has not been interested in having kids, and later has told me that he was just saying that shit. And that's the thing I think some trans women need to be aware of. It's true that some men do want to have children. It's true that some men are particularly interested and invested in maintaining a certain degree of, like, family values and all that crap, right? But it's also true that men just lie. It's also true that a lot of times it has nothing to do with you, girl. A lot of times it's literally just the fact that they wanted to have an excuse, and that's a handy one. I'm not going to say that there aren't men who actually do feel that way, but a lot of times this is just what men know they can say to you to limit you to being just a person that they fuck. That's been my observation of like the reality of this. You guys have to keep in mind, like, I've been out as trans for a very long time. I would say an incredible few amount of the men who have told me over the years that the reason they didn't want to pursue anything with me is because they wanted children, ended up having kids. Because that's not really usually what it's about, frankly. Usually it's just about the fact that they don't have an interest in being with trans women in that way long term. They don't. And that's a harsh pill to swallow, but then here's how where I go with this, right? You have to then start thinking about the fact that there are men out there who are not going to feel that way. There are a lot of men who don't want to have children. There are a lot of men who have no desire to maintain the status quo in that way. For me, I realized that I had to start asking people early on how they felt about kids, whether or not they wanted to have them, and really only give time to men who didn't have that as a thing that they were planning to do. Because, some men will make you feel really bad for having a reaction to that. They'll make you feel really shitty for not wanting to be with them because of that. But at the end of the day, like, what are you guys doing? If you're someone that's actually interested in being with someone beyond a couple of evenings, you have to really make sure that you guys are on the same page. You really do. You have to establish that you guys are going down the same path. You've got the same goals in mind, and that you share a similar vision of the future. I was in that relationship for a really long time. I was in a relationship for 6 years. I wish that I could go back and tell myself that it was important to have a lot of conversations early on about, like, what exactly we were doing and where we were going, what our goals were. Because we had a lot of, like, things that I guess to me were, like, insinuated. You have to actually make a point of saying, hey, I want marriage, or I don't want marriage, or, one day I want to be a homeowner. You have to talk about that stuff. For me, When I learned that I don't want to date men who have kids or want kids, then I realized that I can just date the men who are decidedly opposed to the entire idea. And that has actually worked out quite well for me. Most of my partners have vasectomies. Most of my partners are completely turned off by the idea of having kids. So I'm never going to be in a situation where, they're I'm being disappointed by the fact that they want to go get someone pregnant, or they have, because they very solidly don't want to do that. And that's a decision that they've made. For me, the vasectomy part is like it's a big thing, because like that's a very serious, like, I'm not going to have kids kind of step. And, I think it's a green flag these days, in a time where women's freedoms are being limited. Anyway, I think it's really important to kind of just recognize that you can actually say that you don't want this and you don't want that in a relationship. You actually do have the ability to be the person who turns them away. I think a lot of times trans women, they put themselves in these situations where the man is the person who gets to decide whether or not the relationship is going to continue or end. And I'm not saying that that's always a bad thing. I mean, obviously relationships should be mutual. But what I'm trying to say is that, like, you have to recognize that you're also part of this, and that it's not just a situation where you have to prove yourself to him. You have to become flexible towards what he desires. You can actually say, you know what? I know I don't want kids. I know I don't want kids. Or I know that I can't have kids, but I want to adopt, right? Whatever that answer is, whatever that particular approach is, you should figure out what your long-term goal is. And frankly, if you're in a situation where you're not even ready to even start thinking about that, that's also a sign of incompatibility. If someone's sitting across from you and saying, hey, I want to have kids one day, and you very solidly know that that ain't going to be you, why waste each other's time? There's really no point, especially these days, in like giving your energy to a person who isn't going to be in line with you. And I really do mean that. You have to recognize that you deserve the ability to also say no. It's not just up to him to accept you and to, I think sometimes people get really wrapped up in that. And frankly, as a trans girl who was stealth and did that whole thing and had that whole experience, sis, it's cute or whatever, but it's really not all that. And that's another thing, is like, you have to, at a certain point, stop kidding yourself about like what the relationship is. He may be straight, you may be a woman, but you're also trans. You're also trans, and you can't date men who want you to be a cis woman. I mean, you can. I don't suggest it though. It's just not smart to put yourself in a situation where you're with someone who is really only tolerating you for how similar you are to a cis woman. It's much better for you to desire relationships with people who actually like you and accept you. And I don't mean you got to date a chaser, but I mean you should date someone who you aren't going to feel like you're letting down because you're not cis. And that's kind of what you get when you date a man who is predominantly only interested in you for how much you can approximate a cis woman. That's something that I've had to kind of realize. There's piss in the dating pool, but I think that there is a way for you to set yourself up for success. As a way of respecting yourself, you have to acknowledge that you deserve better relationships. You deserve to be in relationships with people that actually accept you and aren't just tolerating you. That's something that I actually had to learn, because I truly felt for a while that like the most I could really ask for was being tolerated and having at least a little bit of space and a community to be who I am, right? And at the end of the day, there's a lot more to it than that. So that is what I had to say about that. I'm very curious to hear what other trans women have to say about this. Very curious to hear what the cis men who date transgender women have to say about this. I know there are at least some of you in the comment section. And actually, just from trans people in general, how do you navigate through the expectation that some of your partners may have to have children? Do you date people who want children or are interested in procreation in that way? I would be very curious to hear from you. So, anyway, on that note, I want you to stay hot and introspective and always remember and never forget that you are beautiful and you are loved. Bye.